everybody. We'll do a little recap of what we had done so far. So starting with the grounding principles, more about the content and character, which is not only about the road along the crown, but all the projects that come along, the spaces that come along, social and water connectivity, social connectivity and water connectivity, because we have emphasized a bit on water in our coming slides. Movement, we're looking at this more as a unifying passing space and not as heavy traffic on the crown. And looking at the urban spaces. So here we are basically saying create more coherent spaces and let the projects or the activities which come along the crown relate to the larger whole and not look at only as just piecemeal in itself. So I won't go into details because this we touched upon last time quite a lot. Just a quick thing, we looked at the water flow, the way it is flowing. According to that, we kind of created different water catchments. These could be either reused or recharged depending on the kind of development which is there around. And the idea is to basically create some kind of soft landscaping elements around those water bodies so that they're not left alone, but they are maintained properly. Based on the feedback last time, we tried to look at the geometry and put the water along that. So what you see here is, it looks very rigid as a form, but when we go into the details, it will look a little different. And anyway, we're looking at galaxy as more as a geometry, and we have been so flexible all this while, so we have taken little liberty. I mean, starting from the north that keeps changing to the lines of forces, number of lines of forces that, that are always varying, I think.
And the notable thing here is that the water management is an iterative process. It's not that it's going to be like this forever. And somebody pointed out in the morning that the water that is there in the galaxy is looking different. It's more flowing and everything. So what we can do is, from here we can move towards that, because we will be having more density and the runoff will be much more higher. So we will work out a different, the strategy will be evolving as we are developing.
So this movement, we won't go into the details because Fabian has already touched on it. There is one, looking at crown more as a continuous experience and less of a vehicular. So you will see that different details that we have worked on would actually show more of that. The place where we have done different is here. We are not doing this motorized at all, but going around it, and we'll come to that when we are actually detailing out that stretch. And just a quick thing, this sector 3, 4, 5 in residential zone is cycle path only. Then we continue as a motorized path, motorized road, vehicular road. Through Darkali till the end of that little radial that's coming in here right now is only cycle path. This is Darkali. Going further here was again motorized, vehicular. Sorry, I'm so used to saying motorized, but I think vehicular is the better. Youth. Vice Bliss, again cycle path and keeping the loop as it is. This is what I just now explained, keeping this as cycle path or pedestrian. And then sector 1 and 2 is more of staying as it is, but somehow to enrich the experience on that stretch, which we will touch upon in coming slides. But also we had said that we could try and time out the access to this, and in the evenings throughout the night till early morning it could be closed for vehicular. So at least evening life could be experienced without really much of the cost involvement. So looking at the human experience, basically, the kind of spaces that we've created all along, we're trying to see how we can experience the crown. So when you come to the junction of Matrimandir Visitor Center, there is a kind of there are tourists there, and also there's kind of a diversity there where it's also an initiation for many people to kind of, being in Auroville. Going further is archaeological site here, so it's kind of a connection with past. Then you pass through Darkali, which is basically to be with nature, build relationship with nature, different forms of lives. Going further is a kind of exchange. There is a trade. This is industrial zone. So trade of nature, there would be a lot of learning spaces, interaction spaces. Going through YC Bliss, what we are looking at is more of a youth-related activities, so there is a playfulness. Going further is cultural zone, and here the kind of things we have proposed is a campus-like thing. I mean, many of you have done that, but a lot related to different kinds of learnings. And again, there is a park, and residential zone would be if we try and manage to create a social life there and bring some cheerfulness. That is what we are actually looking at. I won't go into the details of placemaking. This we had basically just said that we are looking at only 5 to 7 years. We've referred to master plan document and Roger's sketches, and looking at the current needs also. And these are different proposed facilities that in last presentations we had touched on, so I won't go into the details.
We picked a few which makes more sense in the next 5 to 7 years that can be immediately implemented.
Yeah. So last time we tried to look at 16.7 as right of way and worked around that. So within there was a flexibility that we had kept between 2.5, 3.1, you all know those numbers. So we kind of, we tried to rearrange them and made it, that time the aim was basically to see how we can get social landscape spaces, give them more priority. That still remains, but over last 2 weeks, we had a detailed contemplation and also a lot of feedback that we got last time. Now what we're trying to do here is actually fixing 2.5 meters as infrastructure corridor, and mainly for the HT and LT line and maybe OFC also, because we have that, we need that ring as per the electrical master plan. So that could remain there. But we felt to give the kind of experience that we're talking about, if we clear out that 16.7, we are losing a lot. And that also got confirmed by the presentation that we had, and basically do the planning, other planning first, and infrastructure would fall in place according to the planning that you make. So assuming that water and wastewater would be decentralized and yet have a place in that 2.5 meter ring where you could at times plug in and facilitate along the crown. What you see here is basically the darker gray is vehicular, which is 4 meters, and that's not always along the crown ring. It is going in and out. This is of course conceptual. So it's at times in, at times out. Yeah, and the other aspects that we are trying to cover this time through different, we've done plans and sections of many of these where we are looking at the climate, looking at the microclimate, um, appropriate trees, placements for the shade, for built and unbuilt spaces. You have to say something.
Yeah, the main essence of it is not looking because 16.7 was constraining us a lot, and we're creating the unnecessary challenges. So what we try to do is keep that flexible, and like somebody mentioned, take the crown, widen the crown even more, and the crown is more of a people experience. So give more emphasis on people's experience here.
So that's why the social landscape spaces are way larger than actually just the passing space.
And we try to kind of create social landscape spaces every 200 meters. So from a point within a 5-minute walking radius, you will land up in a resting space. So that was it. So to start with the residential zone, sector 1 and 2, which we connect with a lot. So this area we try to see first how the sun is affecting the area, and if we have a wider road, how it is actually affecting, because we experience it every day. So then with the 4-meter road, this is the 4-meter road which will go because which is already existing, and then there is a 2.5-meter infrastructure corridor that will go, and the rest of the space which is on the other side is totally like that becomes as a space where the buildings are set in, set back, and create spaces and all those things. So here what we try to do in this is Sante. So here this is more like so here the road comes, and then the road kind of deviates so that the ambulance drop point is there near to Sante, and then there is a water body here around which the Sante campus can expand, and that kind of water is also good for healing and everything. And then there are other water bodies which are more public spaces which are there, and then here can be also more wellness related things and everything. So the thing is here, if you see, there is a courtyard like space which was also we tried to get from the galaxy. So there were nice courtyards on the which was falling on the center of the crown. So we tried to create those kind of things with the shade elements. So for example, this is the road that we said will close after 5. So when it closes, and there are several of them in different places in different forms, when we close them, that space can be taken up by something else, and there can be an activity. So it's really a room in the street. And then as we go along here, this is humanscape, and then there is another water body that can be coming there, and around that is kind of the stepped environment, which is again a seasonal water body. So, and when there is no water, it can be a nice interactive space, some performances can be happening and all those things. And then and then here if you see, it sits forward in that space. It does not come on the road but sits forward. So and in the evening the road also becomes like the whole space, and there is no curb that we are thinking of. So another courtyard here again, and then this is Kalpana, and then there is a colonnade that is already going, and then there are some trees. And here we try to see we second the point that Ganesh mentioned, that instead of looking at avenue trees, we use trees like how it can help either as a visual barrier, either as a noise barrier, to provide shade, all those kinds of things we have explored. So here is another courtyard. So around evening there can be some small kiosks put up, and it can be totally different, and then it becomes a road again. So that was the idea here. And
so in this stretch, knowing that north is up, there is a lot of, we all know that this road has always been very sunny. So what is important is to build across and close knit, have trees which would give shade and noise barriers, etc. So that's very important also climatically, to organize those spaces, to have that stretch of road more usable and more as, like we say, street as a room.
So these are some of the sections. If you see, this is the road, like the 4-meter road, and then the 2.5 infrastructure. And then we try to show what is happening around, and because it's a continuous experience, not only along the crown, but across the crown. So this is the courtyard that we are talking about, and here can be some already room for kiosks, and that can become active. This can become seating area for dining and all those things. And there is a nice corridor which is leading inside to a nice water body. And then this is another section. This is in front of library, and this is in front of, this is Kalpana. And in front of Kalpana, again, the road is there. There is something happening. So this building is set in the social landscape space, but it gives a walkway. So that's another exploration. And we also tried to explore some of the species that can be used for providing shade, which are evergreen and TDF species, which you will see here.
Yeah, and thanks to Glenn and Gislin to help us with that.
Yeah. So this is another section in front of, this is humanscape, and in the background. So this is the water body that I was talking about here. And another thing is, in these spaces, the way that we have created in front of humanscape and in front of Kalpana, basically, during this monsoon, there were for 3 days there were water above the crown actually. So that clearly shows that we have not made ways for water. So here, instead of undoing the road and doing that again, we can let the water flow on the crown, and we make a nice small dip above. So the water is flowing, mongooses can cross, and all those things can happen. And then still we have a road, which are also again a speed barrier. So if you have a straight road, and so that's like a speed breaker. This is near Sante. Again, there is in the background the street as a room happening, and then the infrastructure corridor can be covered with shade elements. So this is sector 345, and here somewhere is PTDC and solar kitchen. So this you see, this is all adopted from the Galaxy model. And the nature of the social spaces that we are providing every 200 meters is not always active. Not like something is always happening here. So we are looking at a scale where it's very active, like in the sector 1 and 2, to a scale where it's only a simple banyan tree with benches around, and you have a place to sit and introspect and have your own time. So those kind of things. And there is a big potential in these spaces from today to how it will develop tomorrow, that as the density is growing, as the needs are growing, they can be also transformative. So today it can be very simple, tomorrow there can be a active life around it. So here we are saying only cycle path, and a little raised cycle path allowing the water to go through, because this road is not existing now. We're not redoing anything. We can do it as we allow the water inside. And the whatever traffic is crossing from here to the communities that are here, the Oro Dam and other places, will not be able to cross through or run on the crown. We will have barriers that will cut them off. Section, and there is a lot that we can do. And here again the water bodies are in and out. As it is along the crown, it can be more active. As it is away from the crown, the nature is more calmer, more intimate, and those kind of things. So coming to international zone, we have taken this area from Unity Pavilion to Language Lab, which has a very significant space of the archaeological the site. Okay. So here we are saying, go to the section. So yeah, this is again the 6.5 continues. The important thing is because we have the area of importance, we have this little deviation of the motorized road, but still the cycle path and the walking experience continues along the crown. This is to respect the...
And also we could easily make archaeological site as part of the social space.
Yeah. So, and we have this kind of underground experience where we have the live museum and everything. So this is where we talked about the human experience. It's really to the scale, and we are connecting with the past, so that is very important. So Darkali, as we go, the main idea is to keep the edges active with activities that are happening in the industrial zone and international zone, and then keep only the cycle path through, because if we do much here, then we are kind of disturbing the ecosystem that is there. But it's an enriching experience for us to have it. So we're doing as minimal as possible here and trying to coexist with all forms of life. So it's not only trees and it's not only those things, it's all forms of life that we have, and they play a huge role in our ecosystem balance.
So coming to industrial zone, I think many of you have done this. Don't look at the number of lines of forces. Again, it confused us because at times it was 4, at times it was 6. But what we're saying is basically the low-lying buildings along the crown could come up now, and actually this stretch of road could be developed pretty soon. Because, I mean, of course, along with the interlink that Fabian talked about and the industrial zone access and all, but we could actually start developing this and give that urban form, because here lines of forces are creating a very positive impact on the development which would come along the crown. This is just a skyline that it would create. I mean, that's it. The way it's right now, it's showing very solid blocks, but if we give the porosity, it can be very interestingly done. So spaces-wise, we were, like earlier we had said, we could actually bring offices and collective spaces which would cater to industrial zone, like retail stores, like courier services, and also borrowing from different zones to create a nightlife in this, like Shivangi and Radhika had talked about. This is YC Bliss Forest. So here, I think we will have to, knowing that this is a park, we will have to bring back some green now. We could do that more thoughtfully. We have people who know which kind of trees should be planted and stuff like those. Here, what we are focusing on mainly is to create unbuilt spaces, but organize them in a way that it responds to the footprint, it responds to the need of actually what was existing there. So youth, when we say, is not only restricted to the youth center, but could be enlarged to a very beautiful, in a very beautiful manner. So we could create spaces which would have these kind of events and the activities which are youth related or even otherwise. Yeah, we are talking about this stretch more as just a cycle path. That's the section which is 2.5. Stays because HT ring and electrical stuff can go through that. And also, if required, other things could plug in and go through that. You can see the way these spaces are. They could be very semi-open spaces with tree shades and stuff like that. Cultural zone is where we are saying we could develop this whole stretch more as a campus. And that's why we are sticking to just the cycle path and pedestrian along all this. This dotted line which you saw all along was 690, and have a vehicular road which is a little bit offsetted on outer side. So you can see this is Kripa, and that's Kalabhumi. So if you see the scale of the hexagons we're not talking of something very big. There are a lot of existing kaya trees here, so it will be challenging to see how we incorporate those and actually build into those. So that's going to be very interesting. So that's the section through there. What we're saying is 2.5 again stays here. The water flows along and could become social spaces, meeting spaces. They're just some pictures from different campus learnings.
There can be night street plays happening right on the crown. So when it's kind of not defined, then we can define it with activities, not with space or any enclosure. That is also a possibility.
This is the public shuttle service exploration that we had done last time. There was a lot of appreciation, so we put it here.
The main things are the shuttle route, and then the
stop points.
Dots are the stop points, which have the cycle pool, which will allow you to go explore further in the zones and then come back and again take a shuttle back. Yeah. So the pink lines are the 5-minute walking radius from the drop points, and green lines are the 5-minute cycling radius. Pretty much the whole city area is covered from these drop points in 5 minutes cycling.
Yeah, I think that's all. That's all.